You have done years of internal work that no one witnessed. You descended into your own underworld, called back the fragments and integrated what you had disowned. You emerged different, and no one noticed. No one asked what you learned in the dark. No one marked your transformation. And yet something strange happens. People you have never met write to say that something you wrote years ago changed their lives. A conversation you barely remember becomes the turning point someone else never forgot. Your presence in a room shifts something, though you said almost nothing. This video names what shamans and mystics have always known. Your solitary work creates ripples you will never see, and those ripples matter more than you know. Welcome to Power and Myth. A concept from biology that emerged in the 1980s is the 100th monkey effect. The story goes like this. A group of Japanese macaque monkeys on one island learned to wash sweet potatoes before eating them. The behavior spread slowly through that community. Then, once a critical mass was reached, the knowledge spontaneously appeared in monkey populations on entirely different islands. No physical contact, no direct transmission. Once a threshold was crossed, what one group had learned became accessible to all. Scientists debate whether this actually happened, but the concept points to something older than modern biology, the idea that individual transformation contributes to a collective shift. Once enough individuals cross a threshold, it becomes easier for everyone else to cross it. Rupert Sheldrake called this morphic resonance, the idea that patterns once established create fields that make it easier for those same patterns to emerge elsewhere. Jung called it the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of human experience that we all draw from and contribute to. Every shamanic tradition understood this. The shaman descends alone. The shaman does the work in solitude. But the medicine the shaman brings back does not belong only to the shaman. It belongs to the tribe, even when the tribe does not recognize it, even when the tribe cannot name what has shifted. And here is what no one tells you about doing solitary initiation work as an INFJ in a post-shamanic world. You are contributing to something you will never see completed. You are part of a pattern that extends beyond your individual life. The fact that no one witnesses your work does not mean the work is unseen. It simply means you are not performing for an audience. You are participating in something ancient. The hermit does not withdraw, hoping to be celebrated upon return. The hermit withdraws because the work requires it, and when the hermit returns, lanterns still burning, the village may not understand what has changed. But something has changed. The threshold has been crossed. The pattern has been established. And it becomes easier for the next person to find their way through the same darkness. This is your inheritance, not recognition, impact. But here is where this conversation must become uncomfortable, because there is a shadow side to all of this. And if we do not name it, this entire framework curdles into spiritual bypassing. The shadow is this. It is possible to use the concept of invisible impact to avoid grieving the very real loneliness of undertaking transformative work without witness. It is possible to tell yourself that your solitary work is contributing to a collective shift as a way to not feel the unbearable truth that no one in your actual life knows what you have survived, that no one asked, that no one noticed, and this matters because the grief is legitimate, the loneliness is structural, and pretending it does not hurt because somewhere, invisibly, your work is creating ripples, is not integration, it is avoidance. So let us hold both truths. Your work does create invisible impact. This is real. The patterns you establish in your own psyche do make it easier for others to establish those same patterns. The thresholds you cross lower the barrier for those who come after. This is not metaphor. This is how transformation works. Jung understood it. The mystics understood it, and yes, even biologists studying monkey behavior stumbled into noticing it. But also, you are still alone. The people in your life still do not see what you have done. The tribe you were born into still has no language for your capacity, and you are allowed to grieve that. You are allowed to feel the weight of doing sacred work in a world that calls itself indulgence. You are allowed to be angry that you had to become your own elder, your own witness, your own initiator. Both are true. Your work has invisible impact, and you are still carrying it alone. The wounded healer holds this paradox. Chiron's wound never closed. The gift emerged from the wound, and the medicine reached countless people. But Chiron still carried the wound. The impact did not erase the pain. It simply meant the pain was not wasted. And this is what most spiritual teachings will not tell you. Because it is easier to say your vibration attracts your tribe, your energy shifts the collective, your transformation changes everything. And all of that is true, but it is incomplete because it suggests that if you are still lonely, you must not be doing the work correctly. And that is a lie. You can do all the work, you can cross every threshold, you can integrate every shadow, and you can still be the only person in the room who understands what you have survived. This is not failure. This is the structure of carrying shamanic capacity in a culture that has replaced shamans with algorithms. The invisible impact does not mean you cease to be invisible. It means your invisibility serves something larger than your need to be seen. And that is a bitter medicine. But it is medicine nonetheless. There is a reason the mystics spoke of the dark night of the soul, a reason the shamanic traditions required initiates to face dismemberment, a reason Jung wrote about the necessary suffering of individuation. Because the transformation that matters is not comfortable, it is not recognized, it is not applauded. It is done in the dark, alone, with no guarantee that anyone will ever know what it cost, and yet it still matters. This is what the seer perceives that others cannot. You see the invisible threads. You perceive how your transformation 3 years ago created the conditions for someone else's breakthrough today. You sense how your choice to stay, to do the work, not to give up, lowered the barrier just slightly for the next person facing the same threshold. You know this is happening, even though you cannot see it directly, even though no one sends you a letter saying, "Your work made mine possible." This is the seer's burden and the seer's gift. To know without proof, to trust without evidence, to keep doing the work even when the culture provides no validation, and to understand that the lack of validation does not mean the lack of impact. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you live with both the invisible impact and the visible loneliness? You stop waiting for recognition, not because recognition does not matter, but because waiting for it keeps you in a posture of seeking external validation for work that is inherently internal. You begin seeing your transformation as a contribution, not to a tribe that will thank you, not to a culture that will honor you, but to the collective unconscious itself, to the shared field of human experience that every person is drawing from. When you cross a threshold, you are not just crossing it for yourself. You are establishing a pattern. You are creating morphic resonance. You are making it easier for the next person. And you will likely never meet that person. You will never know their name. You will never receive their gratitude. And that is precisely the point. Because if you needed their gratitude, you would still be performing. You would still seek external validation for your internal work. And the work would remain incomplete. The hermit returns from the wilderness not to be celebrated, but because the work is done. The medicine has been gathered, the lantern is lit, and whether the village understands what has happened or not, the threshold has been crossed, the pattern has been established, and the invisible impact is already beginning. You notice it in strange ways. Someone mentions that a conversation you had months ago has stayed with them. A piece you wrote years ago resurfaces and reaches someone at exactly the moment they needed it. Your presence in a space shifts the emotional atmosphere, though you barely spoke. This is not magic, this is resonance. This is what happens when you stop fragmenting yourself to fit, stop performing to be acceptable, and stop hiding your capacity to make others comfortable. You become unmistakable. An unmistakable presence creates impact whether you intend it to or not. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are. He understood that individuation is not merely personal, it is collective, because every person who individuates, who becomes whole, who integrates their shadow and claims their capacity, makes it easier for the next person to do the same. This is not theory, this is structure. And you are part of it, not because you are special, but because you are doing the work. The solitary, unglamorous, unwitnessed work of becoming whole. And that work matters. It matters more than you know. It matters in ways you will never see. And it matters whether anyone ever thanks you for it or not. This is what we explore here at Power and Myth. Not personality content that tells you how to be more likable, but the ancient patterns that explain why your strangeness is not a flaw, why your solitude is not failure, why your invisible work is not wasted. You are part of something older than personality psychology. You are participating in the pattern that shamans, mystics, and wisdom keepers have always participated in. The pattern of doing transformative work that serves the collective, whether the collective knows it or not. And if you are watching this, you already know this is true. You have felt it. The strange sense that your work matters even though no one is watching. The knowing that your transformation is not just personal. The awareness that you are crossing thresholds not just for yourself but for everyone who comes after. This is the seer's knowing. This is the hermit's calling. This is the wounded healer's inheritance. And you are not doing it wrong just because no one is applauding. Tell me in the comments if you have experienced this, if you have had the strange moment of discovering that something you did years ago mattered to someone you never knew was watching, or if you are still waiting for that moment and learning to do the work anyway. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring this territory together. You are part of something here. The Power and Myth community is not an audience. It is a gathering of those who understand that the most important work is often the most invisible. Until next time, find your power, know your myth,